Hawaii County Mayor Harry Kim has been selected for a prestigious Homeland Heroes Award from the Virginia-based Government Technology and Services Coalition for his ongoing efforts to keep the people of the Big Island safe. During a November 28th interview, Mayor Kim reflected on the 2018 eruption disaster that has shaped his third term in office. You know, you mentioned Puna, and that brings me to this past couple of weeks. There have been some letters to the editor in the Tribune-Herald from people who did not lose their homes in the lava flow, but they cannot get to their homes because lava has cut them off. Pohoiki Road is one example. Well, I know there's at least 12 homes up there, and there's different pockets, and the complaints in the letters have been that the county initially said they were going to open the way for people to get there. It appears that that's not happening now. What's your thinking on that? What's the status of getting people access so they can go back to their intact homes?
I got to clarify that because it was me making the statement in regards to in time. I said in time we will review possibility of clearing out the roadways. We have 3 roadways that have been completely covered. Highway 132, Highway 137 that goes along the whole coastal areas, and Pohoiki Road. And unfortunately, a lot of the hundreds of homes, people are not going to go back anyway because there's nothing to go back to. But there are pockets, as you say, and how many of them? Probably anywhere from 50 or 100 individuals. Some of them are papaya farmers and not people who live there, but many do. Our policy was real simple. On those 3 highways, they were all affected by Fissure 8, as we call it. To this day, they haven't renamed it something. I hate the word Fissure 8, sounds so old. Anyway, because there were about 26 or 27 fissures. Let's take the easiest one, Highway 132. That's your main highway going down the coast area from the Pahoe area. That's where the fissure, the channel, with the main channel crossed over. I would bet that you cannot go more than 20 feet before you hit molten lava.
Meaning underneath, so if you were to try to build a road, you'd come to lava down low.
Oh. And back in 1990, when this happened in Kalapana, the experts who we depend on, what would be a nice safe period for us to make a decision and evaluate whether it's safe to start reconstruction. They came up, I'm not the expert on that, they came out that they think 6 months is a nice period of no activity that you can say this phase of the eruption may be over. And I stress phase of the eruption because Kilauea, as you know, is the most active volcano. That's the same mountain and the fissure area that caused Kalapana destruction, Kapo of old destruction, and the present one, Lilani. And it's still there. So 6 months, that's 6 months and in March. And this is what we tell people, at the end of 6 months, we do not say we're going to go back in. That's when we evaluate whether we can or should go back in. Remember, there were many, many times where the 6 months, like Kalapana, would have to start all over again because it would erupt again. So this is where the misinformation, and I should have clarified it better, that, you know, we told them in 6 months we will look at to see whether it's safe or not to go back. But I would say this, and there are areas there that I don't think 6 months is going to resolve anything. We're talking about lava that's 60 to 80 feet high, you know, whether it's practical or not. This is going to cost tens of millions of dollars. Money should not be the issue, but it is an issue. Federal government will pay 75% of that restoration, but still leaves 25% for us to cover. And that's cold-hearted, but remember, we didn't reopen many of the roads in Kalapana. Same situation. And this one here, we're trying to see how, like that, we made a simple go over the lava in Pohoiki, which is going to open on December 6th. And maybe something like that will be looked at. But here's the part, to the private owners, making a main road open does not open their private roads. And a lot of them are private. That's another thing we have to address. And here's something that very few people understand. you have to resurvey all the places that was covered. There is nothing you will recognize. You know, where is my property? Where is my road? All of those things, unfortunately, the dollar comes into effect. And yes, the federal government will even reimburse a private nonprofit association, but still somebody has to pay that 25%. They will not reimburse a private road, an individual road.
Well, you know, you talk about what's going on in the lava zones, and by the way, I know people are quite excited about the reopening of Isaac Beach Park, of Pohoiki, with the new black sand beach, even though people have been hiking in there, but having the road in there has been very popular. But that brings us to the fact that there are areas that were completely covered by lava, and that brings us to, I get that if somebody has an intact property and it's in lava zone 1 or 2, obviously that's their home, and if they can get back to it, that's a good thing. But does the county plan to allow building in lava zones 1 and 2, knowing that in another X number of years, this same thing will happen just as it did back in 1955? Because it does cost the county, and meaning me as a taxpayer, you as a taxpayer, it does cost quite a bit of money for the recovery, for the rescue, for the restoration. It's not inexpensive. So what's the county's thinking at this point? Meaning, what is your Mayor Harry Kim's thinking?
From the beginning, I've said that I would never approve or support any kind of rezoning in lava zones 1, and very scrutinizing lava zone 2. That stands. I think people do understand. I'm just emphasizing here all of the places that were destroyed, even in Kalapana, Royal Gardens, Leilani, was all zoned before we knew anything about zoning of lava 1 and 2. That was not created until the 80s, and there's a lot of lack of knowledge. And I would never support now of rezoning anything in lava zone 1, any kind of zoning except for agricultural. But any kind of building, you know, at the very minimum, a high education on the risk that you're taking by building there. Now, in regards to the other question, to allow people to rebuild on their choice, that's a real, first of all, insurance companies are saying, finance companies are saying, fine, it's your money, bill, but we won't cover you. And so that's their risk. The law says that's your property. You know, you can do what you can do on it if it's zoned for that. If it's zoned for residential, there's nothing right now to stop you from getting a permit to rebuild a house. For government to say to any property owner, no, you cannot, that means we downvalue their property. We have to compensate them. I don't know if that is government's responsibility, to tell the truth. I feel it is our responsibility to fully make you aware of what the risks are. And this is no different than the floodplains of Mississippi or anywhere else, right here in Hilo Bay, you know, in regards to some property owners on tsunami zoning or flood zoning. I've thought about this a long time, and I feel that fiscal responsibility prohibits me from saying from here on in, anyone who owns property in zone 1 or possibly some of zone 2, you cannot do anything on your property, and therefore require me by law to compensate them. It is my responsibility to let them know fully that the risk they're taking, and that programs will be made available to them, and work with the brokers to ensure that the buyers are fully aware.
Of course, then it comes down to what happens when it does happen again. The county still will put out the money for rescue, for recovery, for restoration. That's just what, I mean, that's what we're doing now. So, absolutely. I mean, that's money that we're all paying. And
we do the same thing for tsunami. We do the same thing for floods. We do the same thing for earthquakes. And that's the price of living in paradise, I think. But let's take earthquakes. We do pass zoning. We're in earthquake zone 4, and that's the highest zone. It's for structural integrity, but still there'll be destruction and damage. And when there is that kind of event, naturally we still have to go, search, rescue, and prevent further harm. Now we just transferring that logic to what is our responsibility to. I'll make an ugly example, and I shouldn't. Remember, lava zone 3 does not mean you're safe from eruption. It's degrees, right? You know where lava zone 3 is? All of Hilo. Let's not forget 1984 when all of Hilo was threatened by Mauna Loa.